I go way back as far as writing software since I was 12, all the standard sort of things. Uh, I kind of got into um, finance early on and worked for an early startup. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. So, if you're from Memphis, there's a lot of little companies there. You can get into finance or you can get in logistics. There's only a couple kind of industries there to really get into. Um, but I got into working on computers and all those sorts of things. I did customer service at an insurance company and then moved into the actuarial area. My original degree was in economics, and then the internet came out. So it was in the mid '90s, and I was looking at refocusing. I started a master's degree in finance, and then I decided to refocus my degree in from finance to information technology, which was good. Part of that was just seeing the internet explode and get when I saw web browsers come out and start to mature. I really version 1.0 of Netscape Navigator probably was pretty impactful on that. When I saw that, I felt like things were going to be different. And I had a love for technology already, and it was kind of moving from information technology was just sort of maturing where it was becoming more and more important part of business, and it was just really exciting. And there was all these things, you can start building things yourself without any permission from any company and any of those kind of things. So then I would say late 90s, I got into web and started building some of my own things. I built a lot of smaller projects, and I launched a site online where a bunch of different sites. I did sort of an early version of Craigslist that came out many years later, and I launched it from Memphis, and so it didn't grow as quickly as it would probably in some other areas of the country. I launched a search engine. So early on, you didn't know what websites to use, so I built a directory and search engine for commerce sites. So focused generally just specifically on if I want to find a good bank online, there were only a few, and it would help you find them. And the thing that was slightly different than like Yahoo that came out at the time was that you could rate it. You could kind of put in a score, so people that use the bank could come in and give it 5 stars or 4 stars, and it would aggregate that and allow you to search and understand like what are the highest rating banks online, or what are the highest rating e-commerce stores. It had a bunch of different categories, and then I sold that off in the early 2000s. And I did a lot of other projects like that. I lucked out and got into I worked in banking for a bit. I worked in a local credit union in Memphis, and I took them paperless. So they had a lot of paper they were printing out, worked on making them paperless. I built a early intranet site. So at the time it was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool to take like the technology of the internet to HTML and all that and build something inside a company that you could collaborate on? And I built sort of an early wiki and collaboration tools and things like that inside from scratch for this credit union. And then by 2001, I moved over to FedEx, and I stayed there for 15 years. So the first half, I was in information technology, which I helped launch FedEx's first API program. So APIs were hot at the time. So what we wanted to do is allow you to give you an API where you could ship packages. And you had all these warehouse management systems and all these other systems that could aggregate those APIs across carriers. So there was a lot of that stuff starting in 2001. So we built and launched kind of this way you could interface with FedEx's computers in order to ship packages. And that's gone through several phases now, where you've even got, we're probably on the second or third or more generation of people building new versions of that sort of thing today. And even new startups coming out of Y Combinator, I'm looking at these companies building APIs for shipping and things like that. So that's built on all that infrastructure that's 20 some odd years old. Um, and then so the second half of at FedEx, I lucked out and got into FedEx Innovation Group, and that's sort of FedEx Innovation Group is where we did a lot of new stuff. I did about a year of research into sustainable technologies and how that can relate to shipping. There was an idea I had been pitching since pretty much getting hired at FedEx. I say it took me maybe 10 years to get the idea kind of into FedEx, called SenseAware. And so we started working on that in 2008 or 2009. It had been an idea that I had been pitching inside of FedEx and many and others, not many others, but several others within FedEx have been pitching some similar ideas. And it got to be 2008 or so, and it kind of caught on that maybe we wanted to do something in the Internet of Things with tracking. And so I got to be on the founding team for creating this thing that I had been pitching, and it had been canceled and killed for years. And so finally we built that and launched it in 2011, which is you put a device in a package, and it uses a cell phone network to upload GPS location, temperature, light data, vibration, all these sorts of characteristics. The way I thought about it was really two different ways. Initially, when I got hired by FedEx, I was thinking, what's next? What does tracking look like after you scan a barcode now when it passes through stations? What if we started using some of the technology to track it more accurately? But it also grew into, well, what else can we track? So can we have other sensors where tracking just doesn't mean location anymore in logistics, where we can talk about temperature ranges and all those sorts of things? And then we were able to build intelligence on top of it, right? So you would want it to be able to sense that something happened, and then you would want to have some sort of intelligence built into the system where it would alert people. So we had this sense and alert system that we built on top of all that, so that if something went wrong, it could reach out and figure out how to solve the situation with the human, collaborate with the human. So that's SenseAware, which is sort of IoT for shipping. It was the first IoT type product that was integrated from its roots within, a startup that was within a actual shipping logistics company. And then I stayed there for a while. I did some other things. We did a lot of prototyping and things. A lot of things ended up staying on the shelf, as they will in corporate innovation, where you come out with something, you research it, and you either find out that it wasn't a good idea, or you find out it's not a good time for the company to move forward with it. I did get to launch another thing that I was pushing for while I was at FedEx was a startup accelerator. So before I left, I was able to start a startup accelerator where FedEx sponsored a local logistics accelerator, and we worked to get that launched before I left town. And so 2015, I left, and I had a friend who was starting an AI startup out of Boston called Talla, Talla. And then we agreed that I was going to be in charge of product and business development. And so since we had a lot of partners, we integrated with Slack, et cetera, out here on the West Coast, and we had a lot of future partners and customers out here. Instead of moving to Boston, I moved out here. And so that's mid 2016, early 2016, I left FedEx, started working at this startup out of Boston. We raised like $4 million in January. I think two weeks after I started working on it, the money was in the bank, so that's good. And then we worked on that through. I worked there for a little over 2 years, and headed up product for our AI chatbot product. And then I sort of transitioned off of that about partway through it, because my friend and I had an idea around combining AI with blockchain. And so then we created Botchain, BOTCHAIN. and it's a artificially intelligent. Um, it's a blockchain for really collaborating with artificially intelligent chatbots and agents, and other types of agents that aren't chatbots. Um, yeah, and so then I wanted to move on and work on some other stuff out here on the West Coast. I then left and I started another company now, which is an AI company, which we are working in the area of natural language processing. And that's where so for example, if you write an email and you use something like Grammarly, it's checking your grammar and spelling. So we do a sort of similar proofreading, but we check for um, structure, the words, phrases, and structure and tone of the document to make sure it's a good sales email. So instead of just saying you're correct from the English language perspective, we say we want to improve from a effectiveness perspective. And then we're also working on a business product around that where we imbue the brand and the legal concerns of the company you work for into the proofreading, so that we'll have a proofreading product that will make you more effective, more on brand, and more legally safe within companies.
That's
And so that's
awesome.
where I am now. Yeah, that's my background from age of 12 till now in a nutshell. And just mainly around the technology things I've done, which is a lot.